This presentation will discuss the Title II Part A requirement that the program be aligned with the challenging state academic standards. This requirement is part of the random validation process for the 2022-2023 school year. Before we begin, we would like to point out that documenting overall compliance for a program requirement may require several forms of documentation to be maintained locally and available upon request by TEA and/or an auditor. To ensure overall compliance with program requirements, LEAs should refer to the program guide and/or other program-related resources that reference the multiple forms of documentation required to be maintained locally. The documentation requested for submission during the random validation process may not include all forms of documentation that are required to be maintained locally. The Title II Part A statute requires the Title II Part A activities are carried out by the LEA be aligned with the challenging state academic standards. For this requirement, the LEA is required to submit documentation for item 1.1. That will be a description of how the activities to be carried out by the local education agency under Title II Part A will be aligned with the challenging state academic standards. To document compliance for this particular validation, the LEA is asked to submit for one Title II Part A activity relevant pages of the most current district improvement plan or relevant pages of the most current campus improvement plan if the activity was campus-based. Again, this is only for one Title II Part A activity. Issues that may result in an improvement needing status for item 1.1 include the following. Auditable documentation requested was not submitted. Documentation submitted does not show the activity to be aligned with the state academic standards. Documentation is for a state-required activity and is, therefore, a supplant. Documentation from prior year was submitted instead of a current year documentation. The documentation required for item 1.2 is a related activity document corresponding to activity selected in item 1.1. Related activity documents must be appropriate for the selected activity in item 1.1. This chart shows examples of some possible Title II Part A activities by class object code and their corresponding activity-related documents. For example, if the activity falls under Object Code 6100 for payroll costs, such as extra duty pay for Title II Part A professional development outside of the regular school day, we expect to see a related training certificate or extra duty pay request form or other document related to the Title II Part A professional development that staff received. Issues that may result in an improvement needed status include auditable documentation requested was not submitted. Documentation submitted does not align to the activity described in item 1.1 documentation. Documentation is for a state-required activity and is, therefore, a supplant. And documentation from a prior year was submitted instead of a current year documentation. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you have any questions, please reach out to gerardo.ramirez@tea.texas.gov. My desk phone number, 512-463-9390, or our division phone number, 512-463-9499, as well as our division email address, support@tea.texas.gov.